now I understand which I grew up as a depressed child. It's either I pursue leadership or I...
You know, what's this mentality that we have, even when you are going to wash a motor, Sanmonani, welcome to All Things Leadership Podcast. Sinetulela, such an exciting episode today. We have an amazing guest. He has grown up from the hood or the bundles, but he has actually just risen up into leadership, believes in young people, believes in young blood, believes in the future. And it's such a wonder, and it's an awesome privilege for me to welcome Uzwe Sokela.
No, all good.
Yeah, but thanks for coming today. We've been trying to get a hold of you. You've been to different countries and different cities. What's the latest?
Yeah, the latest. Closer to home because we were in Devon.
Okay, what are you shall I say, please?
Anyway. Don't like the scoop.
No, man. Yo, do people still do that, bro?
Yeah, they do.
Oof.
I mean, our last mission in Devon, we had a guy from Joburg, but his reason was, I want to show my grandma that I've been to Devon.
Wow.
So
wow.
Not
but what's the mystery?
Go.
I'm sorry. Like, what's the mystery between Uguti? Because you can't pour almonds without a faggot. What's the science? What's the science behind?
No.
So they say it's a lie.
Yeah.
I mean, I've never just put one. Yeah.
I think amanzi angangena without sand, but I think it's kunzima ukuthi ungawafaka without a sand because there's ama waves and ulwandle hlezi, so that's not.
Actually, guys, please go and try it. You tell me the results. Anyways, tell us a little bit about your background, please.
Yeah. So igama uzwelihle, as you've said, Sokela. Sokela isibongo engikhule ngitshela ukuthi ngakwaSokela.
Yeah.
So I believe in my name then because isibongo yazi ukhumbule ekhaya.
No, tatakho. Yeah.
So those things can yeah. So ngikhulele endaweni ezithanda ukuba ningi because ubaba mbeka yi-bricklayer.
Yeah.
So abakhi-ke uyabazi-ke bahamba lapha nalapha.
Yeah.
And I'm one of the 16.
Ooh. 16 bricks?
16 babies from my dad.
Number?
So I've never worked it out. My dad had 2 wives, and these 16 kids are not from the 2 wives.
Okay.
So, but ekaya, there's 4 of us, but Uma no Baba Mabe Shrada, my mom had 2 kids, so then
Sure.
that makes 6 of us.
Yo, 16 kids, how do you navigate life?
I think, looking back, I always say, if I didn't know God, mhlambe ngabe long time ago kade ngangcwatshwa, I wouldn't have met you.
Yeah.
Because I think the difficulties that one had to experience is based on the fact that ngingane yasesithembini. Secondly, you had to share your dad with 16 other kids. Ubekahlala nathi baba.
Yeah.
But most of the time he was absent because ubeka sebenza bade ngisho ukuthi umaki.
Laying bricks everywhere else.
Yeah, bricks and babies.
Yeah.
So it became difficult to have a dad, but engekho ekhona. And this is the funny part which I always like stop on unkosikazi ukuthi the other kids never understood the impact yokuthi yes ubazwa njengani ukuthi uhlala nonkosikazi omncane, but he was always absent and ubekaphuza.
Yeah.
So maybe on weekends uzobona abangani bakhe aziphuzele, Sunday ukhathele, and Monday he's gone.
And how was your relationship with ama siblings akho as ukhula?
Relationship, I only understood the relationship now that I'm a child of God.
Mm-hmm.
Before that, the only relationship I had was with my immediate siblings and not the wider family.
Yep.
And also, you will know, Temshadweni, honest team, there's always going to be conflict. So navigating kulezo zinto, it created inzondo kimi.
Yeah.
And also, I think now I understand which I grew up as a depressed child, which I never had a freedom to experience what it's like to be a child.
So, but what has made you come to a conclusion of Oguti? You were a depressed child. What were some of the things that you were that you could recall Oguti Bauzenza that makes you think what you were depressed?
Okay, so I think one of the things I always tell people, Uchi, every time Manghamba on the road, if there's a group of people approaching, if there are more than 2 people approaching, I'll have to change direction. I never want to be amongst people. Every time I remember this, every time with December, I'll just walk away from home. I'll find myself walking on the streets, not knowing where I'm going. And then I'll find myself asking myself those questions: where are you going? What's happening with you? Then I will turn back and go home. But I never understood Uti, all of that to be Daloin until I joined the organization which I worked for after Mqedu Matric. And I was a social worker there. And they realized that there are struggles engibhekane now. And through my trainings that were provided for us, it helped me to understand some of this terminology. And I got a chance to also reflect on my childhood.
Yeah.
Where I could remember some of the episode. Like, I think Ugogo Zaluma died when I was like 4 or 5.
Yeah.
I remember the scenery of everything that happened, but at that time it didn't make sense.
Yeah.
Because I was a child. I remember my fight between my mom and dad, between the family.
Yeah.
But at that time I was still a child. So the organization helped me to walk back that journey just to reflect on those things. Then I realized, okay.
And then did you start a healing journey from that, or was it just a thing of Uguti? You identify Uguti, those are the things that affected me as I grew up.
I think those conversations created a space for me to heal. Because the moment you realize Uguti, you've been defining yourself based on what's been happening in your life.
Yeah.
And some emotions that are hidden that you never dealt with.
Oof.
So Uguti, once that is exposed, then it's easy for you to deal with such matters. Because I think I'm growing up in that environment and no one really look into how are the kids doing. Galiwa.
Yeah.
And yeah, all of that was happening. No one at any stage really look into how is this child doing. Which, I mean, talking about it now, I'm thinking, I wonder how my siblings dealt with this.
Number one, siblings work.
So Lava Zalomanu Baba, I'm the first one.
Okay.
But obviously some of these things, because if I'm saying I remember things from my age 4 or 5,
yeah.
Obviously some of them when some of these things happened.
Sure.
So now I had a privilege. I joined the ministry that helped me to understand what's been happening in my life. I don't know about them because I don't think any of us have sat and talked about these things.
Yeah.
But with my family gatherings, you
awkward conversations.
I know. I know. I don't think any will really go into those conversations. But with my family gatherings, you can see there's always an elephant in the room that no one wants to address or talk about. Because we always a lot of passing comments with, okay.
Maybe another person sees a green elephant, another one sees a blue elephant, another one sees a white elephant.
That's true. That is true.
And how often do family gatherings happen at Senjin?
I think there's one initiative that my dad tried, which is there's this day, Easter Monday, which is more like a family day.
Yeah.
Because his desire is to die knowingly which the kids have been reunited, because he can see which there's tension.
Yep.
Sometimes we do izinto not really inviting each other in some of those things, because you'll know those comments for me, it's just not on.
Yep.
So once a year, or when there's some imngcwabo, amaphathi, imshado, that's the only time.
Imingcwabo iyaphoqana.
Iyaphoqa ke umngcwabo.
Yeah.
And as a believer, the only thing I attend imshado nemngcwabo, the rest of the other gatherings, because of the toxicity that we experience when we're together, I don't go.
And how were you exposed to Etembeni? Was it Etembeni, the organization that you got exposed?
Yeah.
How did the journey happen?
So when I was in high school, we were running a movement, Yabantu Abasha, which I can't remember how I got involved. So then we had this idea or a dream or a vision to nurture young kids. Because at that time, you will know, around about 2000, which there was HIV, which people were dying and all of that.
Yeah.
So the vision we had was to care for those kids.
Yeah.
And also create activities like sport, so that we get them active. So while we were in that journey, as a youth organization, we didn't really have resources to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So on my platforms, we will just share, this is what we want to do. Currently, this is what we're doing, but this is what we want to do.
Yeah.
Then in one of the meetings, there was a lady by the name Catherine, who extended an invite to say, we're starting this program.
Mm-hmm.
If any of you guys are interested, you can apply. That was, I was doing grade 12. Then my Pellis score, grade 12, I didn't have funds to go study.
Mm-hmm.
I was accepted, yes, university, but
yes.
You look at the reality, okay, ngizolamba, ngizogowisha in language yanamhlanje. Then I decided I'm not going to school. Then I went to
Uzogowisha, but you're not going. Uzogowisha, but you're not going, bro. Okay.
Yeah, so then I realized it's okay, no, it's going to be a real struggle. Then I decided it's okay, let me go volunteer.
Mm-hmm.
Then I volunteered for a year, with the mind of after a year, I don't know, because at some point I was thinking I'll raise money, because then after a year I said to, now there was another lady, Obega manager the whole of Etembeni. I said to her, end of this year I leave, like end of December. Then she says to me, have you prayed now that you are leaving about your decision? I was still young. Do you pray for decisions? Never.
Go, bro.
So, and I had a plan, which I need to go and study. Then she said to me, go and pray. And I was obedient. I went and prayed. Then God said, you're staying in this organization. I still need you. 3 months down the line, they employed us. Then they took us for a training as child care workers. So that was my first training as an entry into the organization.
So were you dealing with kids that were encountering HIV?
Kids that didn't have parents.
So
the parents,
often vulnerable.
Those are the terms that
I remember
labeling them.
I used to work for an organization as well. We used to call them OVC, orphans and vulnerables.
OVC.
Yeah. But bro, big ups to such organizations that were helping to curb the spread of HIV, and to bring awareness of what HIV was, because most of people understood it as idliso. Like,
Dingo Palace.
I mean, like, I remember ubabamncane wami, he was sick, man, you know,
Sure.
and we kuhambe inyanga zonke lezinto thiudlisiwe, you know.
Sure.
And just to discover what it was the actual sickness. So big ups to those organizations who've been helping to bring the awareness, because right now we're living in the fruit of it.
Sure.
If you think about it,
Sure.
you know, all those NGOs, the Department of Health, Mando Shabalala Msimanga.
It will be true.
It will be true, you know. And right, I can confidently say, Uti, today people with HIV are dignified.
Yeah.
And it's no longer like that stigma,
Sure.
having a crocs when, you know. So big ups to those guys. You know.
They did an amazing work. Because I lived in the community, you could see the guys that were at the edge of dying. But the organization cared for them. They are still alive now. There's this one lady, I always look at her and be like, you know, God is good. There are people who look and you say, okay, this one, I simply get just a few days, they will go.
Yeah.
They're still alive even in Namhlanje.
Even the doctors have said there's nothing else we could do.
Yeah.
You know. So tell us about your journey. So 3 months in at this organization, then what happens, bro?
Yeah, sure. I always
so now
say,
you get exposed to leadership, right?
I think so.
Okay. Unintentionally, so I guess.
Yeah, because I think after that 3 months, if I remember correctly, so they gave the training and then we came back, we worked. Then we bought a center, which then we had to formalize the onkind because we used to work in different homes. So after formalizing that, down the line, I was, in a tangent where I had to choose. It's either I pursue leadership or I pursue social work.
Okay.
The reason they gave me those two options, that's because of what they saw when we were working with the kids. That there is leadership, but also as a social worker, because in particular, babengasibiza ngama-child care workers, babesibiza ngama-social work.
Yeah.
And I think we were doing umsebenzi owenziwa ama-social work, and sasiwenza sasiwona.
Yeah.
Without a qualification though. But then I had to pray about it with the guidance, with the people that were around me. Then I felt, because way back, I remember a prophecy from a guy, I think Bible Kamuge Goli, in a leadership band, and then they said you will be preaching to the nations.
Yeah.
And at that time when I heard that, ngayithatha ngayibeka la vele ngeke ngiyisebenzise khona, because you look at uselokishini ufunde in a township school, what are nations?
Yeah.
Then that thought was parked in just somewhere there. I never looked at it. Then while I was praying, that thought came back. Which was very confusing, but it helps to walk with people, because then they can help to put things together as you reflect in your journey. Then I went back to my leaders and said, okay, I'm just going to pursue leadership at this point. From there, then I received support to go do a leadership in Joburg, in a program just I entered for a year. Which exposes you to different kinds of leadership so that you can find yourself with what kind of a leader you are. Then they also, so I told you, I didn't have money to go study.
Yep.
I wanted to do business management. And through that decision, they funded me to go and study business management and administration. You see how God works. That day they said, go and pray. I prayed and I stayed. And then later, I got the funding to go study exactly what I wanted to go study.
So sometimes prayer is not a prayer of going; it's a prayer of staying.
It is
Sure.
waiting on God.
Sure.
Because I think at that point, as much as I decided to stay because I had God, but I was not that strong with faith, which I understood what that means.
Yeah.
Until things started to unfold. With, oh, okay, now I'm going to go and study something that I had like always been in my heart. Then you can see how God answers that prayer. But
Sure. Have you always been a church boy?
church boy,
Yeah,
not
like
the other church boy.
I mean, like, because you mentioning a lot of stuff about your faith, your journey, your trust in God, your belief, prophecy, and all those things. And what has been your journey and what happened?
Yeah. So growing up uMawubekasisesondweni bengiyisayon gijima nenduku gijima nenduku kanzima. So I always knew God exists. And I would say I grew up going to church to a point even sengike high school bese ngizidecidela mina ukuya. The only thing that was missing, which at some point, because of everything was happening in Polygamy, I started to question faith. And through this organization, Etembeni.
What kind of questions were you asking?
Like, who is this God? If you can suffer so much, who is this God?
So it was through the lens of pain.
Yeah. And also, one of the new concepts that was introduced to give me that pushed me to pursue just investigating faith was they talked about the Holy Spirit being a person, which at church, as I was kuluma now, I never had that perspective, which he is part of the 3-in-1.
Yeah.
Then and also with the church, then I realized it's a great opportunity just to pursue this new idea.
Yeah.
Kanti bazolanda umshumayeli waphesheya e-US ezokhuluma ngesingisi kumfana selokishini ezoshumayela.
Yeah.
I think that's where the encounter with the Holy Spirit happened, because I saw how naked I was. He painted a picture of an evil man that I was.
Ooh.
And I guess the rest was history, because I found myself kneeling down in tears, and I had an encounter with God that day.
Then you surrendered your
It's
life.
just a new journey. That was 2003.
Yo, that's incredible, Faith. So now, fast forward, you are in Etembeni, you end up being a director, right?
Yeah.
Were you like a manager, then a director, or did you just shoot straight up to being a director? And what led up to that decision?
I don't know what led to it, but I mean, I know people pursue positions. I never, not at any stage, I looked at myself as a director of that organization. But integrity will take you a long way. So when isenta isithengiwe seyikhona, I was appointed an assistant manager. Social worker lebengikhuluma ngayo was the manager, and then I think mayethola umntwana, then they needed a manager because besezosebenza part-time. Then automatically I became that manager, and from being a manager to a programs manager, which means you manage more teams, and then from there director had to go with sabbatical leave. Then I was appointed a deputy director then. But
big words. Big words.
Betty, deputy director, then also highlighting Gucci, they want me to take over the leadership of the organization, and I said no.
Yeah.
I think for a year when I said no, they came back again.
Yeah.
Then I said I need to pray about it. Then I took 3 months away from work. I prayed, and then God answered the prayer to say, you will lead the ministry for 3 years. I was working at Durban because I took some time to go and pray. When I was working, and then God spoke to me and said, you need to lead this ministry for 3 years. Then I came back with a stubborn heart, because I never looked at myself in those lenses.
Yes.
So it was hard for me to accept the fact that I needed to. But obedience to God, I think, is very key, because umati and something, it's not you doing. He just want to use you to do it. And I had to be obedient to that.
So, bro, I guess phela ngasikhathi unyuka ngesalary. Ngesalary ithi ngu-manager, ithi ngu-deputy director, ithi ngu-director. Right? So were you taking over from umlungu noma from udaki basically? And how's the change? You know?
Interesting. I was taking over from Grant Atkins.
I met him once.
Yeah, it's just an interesting guy. So I took over from him. Then when I took over from him, he became more like an assistant, which was quite interesting, because kule lizwe siphila kulo they wouldn't see that happening. But indlela uNkulunkulu asebenza ngayo is different.
So was he like almost like what can I say?
The word we used was a consultant. But my duties was looking at the fundraising part of the ministry.
100%.
Then I looked at the operation.
And then how was the organization during that time? Because I think there's change of management and there's change of race in management, and there's a shock. Sure. I don't know if I'd say a culture shock. You know, what's this mentality that we have?
Sure.
Even when you are going to wash a motor, but I go to wow. You know, it's been kind of engraved. Would say, you know. So now, it's very. What's an auction food? Even the poshest of English, you know, what does that do to the people in the organization who possibly are even more educated than
you? That's what we call, because we have to lead abantu abafundile. I think the one thing I will tell you, Clara, is because I had prayed and I knew that God had said lead. So when I took over, the organization was struggling financially. So from managing a budget of 5 million down to 2, you can tell there was a big change. You had to let people go.
Yeah.
And some of the people that you are letting go are people that you live with in the community. It was not nice. And I know they look at me and be like, yeah, this guy. But there's something I appreciate, because there was a guy before he was a leader. You know, when you think your leader is tough on you, and then also a leader, then you understand, which actually this guy was not So he came to me and said, thank you the way you led us, because now I understand. So there are certain things that you do because you're just being obedient to uNkulunkulu. You don't look at how people respond, because Leondo can also make you lose your integrity.